Hello everyone, welcome back to another video here on Play on GAA with me, Seamus Brady and Luke Peyton. This video is going to be more of an in-depth breakdown and really a good analysis of the Dublin Kerry football semi-final, which took place over the weekend in 2022. Probably the game of the year so far, you could argue, after maybe Galway Armagh being game of the year, but it's right up there for drama, for excitement, especially towards the end. I mean, the free kick from Seanie O'Shea, probably, in my opinion, the best free kick I've ever seen. Best clutch free kick, right up there with Maurice Fitzgerald off the sideline. But I mean, Luke, you were at the game yourself. What did you make of the atmosphere? It looked incredible.
Yeah, it was very, very good. It's still, I don't think it was probably at the level of some of those Dublin Mayo games that I was at as well, where like towards the end when Mayo were ever kind of in the game where you couldn't hear yourself even think really. But it picked up towards the end now, especially when it was a little bit surreal in the first half, I thought, when Dublin kind of looked the second best and the crowd were silenced a little bit. But then that phase when the goal comes in from Costello and Kilkenny kicks the scores, McCarthy score as well. That was absolutely huge too. That the place absolutely erupted for that, and then look, the tension of the last 5 minutes as well. It was a fantastical atmosphere, and yeah. Look, it was a very, very tense game. It was different to kind of some of the previous Dublin Kerry games, which was just kind of defined by quality, and it was just class all over the place. Whereas this one was more of an arm wrestle and more kind of nervy enough affair. And I felt there was a lot more mistakes in this game as well than what we've seen in Dublin Kerry in previous years. You look at the 2013, 2016, 2019, they were all probably much higher quality games, but we still got the same level of drama, I suppose, in this one.
Yeah, 100% agree with that. I mean, 114 to 113 isn't the highest scoreline, but I mean, when you talk about what was going on between the two teams, when you talk about the drama and then the amount of turnovers that both teams were giving away, the wides that both teams kicked at certain stages, the missed penalty by Seanie O'Shea, like the fact that there were so many instances where both teams didn't necessarily play their best kind of added to the drama in a certain aspect, that like which team was going to pull it together the most. I thought Dublin's performance was better than I thought it would be. I did say that Kerry would win on the preview. I did say that I just thought, there was more pointing towards them, especially with Conor O'Callaghan being out. But obviously the Dublin fan in me comes out when the game is about to start. And I think, Dublin are going to win this surely because, we've grown up with Dublin winning All Irelands. And, just wasn't to be in the end on the day. The other thing as well, you were at the game, as we've mentioned. The other thing, as well as the atmosphere, the conditions. I mean, I went out for a walk, in the morning of that actual game. Obviously couldn't go to the game myself, but it was incredibly hot on the weekend there on that day on Sunday. It was really, really hot. The sun was beaming down on the pitch, and you being in the stadium, do you think that, and how much of an impact do you think that had on the game?
Yeah, well, it must have done a bit. Like, I know that everyone that came home from it has come home absolutely roasted, and everyone's sunburned coming back from it as well. But I think that, look, obviously playing in that type of heat is not ideal as well. And there was actually a strong enough breeze that went the into the hill, kind of when that Seanie O'Shea kicked into it. That was a kind of disguised breeze there as well. That was fairly strong, and that when the free was given, I think most people were kind of saying, look, it's out of range, kind of that Dublin weren't kicking scores from there in the first half as well, and that's look into that breeze, it just wasn't on, and look, it was just an unbelievably clean strike, and as clean a strike as probably as could have been. So all told, look, the conditions were tough enough, I do think, but I do think as well that look, the quality of Dublin absolutely is not quite the same. I think that Kerry team in 2019 was probably even better as well than what they're currently at as well right now. But yeah, I do think that look, it did lead into a very, very entertaining game. But like you said, there was huge turnovers, and it was nearly uncharacteristic errors in there too, that like players just dropping balls, and just kind of, there was a few times in Dublin in particular kind of miscontrolling solos and everything as well. So it was just stuff that we were kind of not used to seeing, I suppose, in these kind of games recently. And well, look, it just led to the more tension that followed in the second half, I suppose.
Yeah, and you mentioned about Johnny O'Shea's free, and I just want to elaborate more on this. Like me and you, I mentioned on Aaron's thing, me and you both have, taken frees for our club teams over the years, and neither of us have ever taken a free with anywhere near the amount of pressure that Johnny O'Shea has taken on it. But I like to kind of go in a little bit on the detail of how he kicked the ball, and he put it so far away from the goal initially to curl it in. And I was saying another detail that I thought with that was, when you are taking a free kick, it can be a little bit scary to go for that curler where you kick it so far away from the goal to then hope that it draws back in. Because if you mess it up, that goes so far wide. And that, 85,000 people or whatever in the stadium, the hill are going to be like, way, like the second that it drifts off, if you miscue it. He's already missed the penalty, and he's going for that very audacious way of kicking the ball. He's not just thinking, I'm going to go straight down the middle here and hope that it hangs on and goes over the bar. Do you think his technique there was even more brave than actually taking the shot on in the first place?
Yeah, well, I think it's his natural technique is that he tends to shape the ball that way with the way he kicks it. Like myself, I would always prefer to just kick it straight in, but that's just what I like to do. And I would kick it out of the hands always. And look, if you're kicking frees out of your hands, you don't want to be putting that shape on the ball anyway, as it is. When you're kicking off the ground, it's more natural like that as well. But like, it's an unbelievable skill to be able to kick the ball off the ground from that distance too, as well. So the only thing I would say as well, though, as a free taker, as his thinking as a free taker, is that was a level game, and he knew that. Look, he misses it. There's still an extra time in there as well, and that all he knew is that if there was enough legs in it and that the ball was out of play, look, he knew that was going to be full time anyway, as it is. So that gives him the opportunity as well. It's a shot to nothing, and look, in that situation, in a shot to nothing, your adrenaline kind of gets up as well, and if you have the right mentality as well, like, it can add an extra few yards onto your kick as well. And if you go into that really believing it, that's the difference, and that can cause you to put that little bit more into it as well, and it just carries you over the line really a bit. And look, he executed absolutely perfectly. But yeah, look, it would have been interesting if Dublin were a point up with that free, if it would have been done differently, if it was taken short or anything as well. So, look, I think it was fantastic. It was a fantastic way to end the game from a Kerry perspective, of course. And yeah, look, it's as good a score probably to finish it that we've seen in a while anyway.
Agreed, yeah. One of the stats that is more bizarre and, maybe a bit disappointed from a Dublin perspective is after that League Annan point in basically the first minute of the game, Dublin actually didn't lead the game again. Kerry very quickly got an equaliser. Shawnee O'Shea got the goal. And then Kerry led for the rest of the game, or it was a draw, obviously, as well at stages. Do you think that first half, Kerry go in 1-8 to 6 points up at halftime? I do remember thinking, like, I don't think we can do much better. Like, the Cormac Costello, Dean Rock, and Kilkenny in the inside forward line were being kept very quiet. And I thought, yeah, they can threaten more for goals in the second half. But apart from that, I thought everyone was actually playing pretty well. And the fact that Kerry were still 5 points up at half time kind of frightened me. But at half time, what were you thinking in the stadium about Dublin, and what were you thinking that they needed to improve?
Yeah, well, look, I think it's the same as the Forest. I just didn't think there was enough scorers up there, and the Lorcan O'Dell decision didn't work out really. And look, when Paddy Small came on, Dublin more of a focal point. You saw he kicked a good score. He won the mark as well, that essentially tied it up as well. That in there too. And that, look, I do think it probably was a mistake not starting Small. That once Con was out injured, you needed somebody of a similar profile. Obviously, Small is nowhere near Con's level, but like a similar style player. And I do think he was a bit of a miss there as well, because you look at it now, Rock is essentially just a free taker in that full forward line. He can't get out and win his own ball as well. Costello, like, he scored the goal and took that really well, but his impact other than that was pretty non-existent. And then O'Dell's like a tidy enough player that kind of can float around and string passes together, but he's not going to kill you on the scoreboard as well. And I just thought they were missing that as well. And look, when the sub came on, they did improve, and that they did they did have more of a threat up there too. But like, at the same time, they did require that, like, the second half, Dublin, I think Dublin really only got into it more so in that the three big players, and James McCarthy, Fitzsimons, and Kilkenny, had unbelievable second halves, and they nearly on their own, I'd say, those three nearly dragged Dublin over the line at the end, and in particularly McCarthy. I just want to especially focus on him with that. There was that phase when he kicks the score where I don't think anybody thought the score was even on, and then there's Dublin press up on the kick out straight away. The next one, the ball goes out. Unbelievably, Shane Ryan decides to kick it out on top of McCarthy after kicking a score like that. And there was no contest really. McCarthy breaks it down, and then I think Kilkenny scores straight away from that too. So Kerry go from having a 2-point lead back to nothing, essentially just because of James McCarthy. And it was unbelievable, kind of an unbelievable passage of play really. And look, I think it's moments like that. Like obviously, I'm looking at this from a Dublin prism, like that I was at the game as a fan and everything as well. But it was moments like that when you look at it and you think that like McCarthy, you look at him as like the best player to ever wear blue, and that look, it was just an unbelievable performance. And I thought that like on a day when Kerry were the better team, I thought as well, to have a player like that nearly drag Dublin over the line on his own, it was just remarkable.
Yeah, well, I personally would say he's right up there with Lee Keegan as the best right half back that I've seen in the game. I mean, you can make a case for the likes of Tomas O'Shea, Paddy O'Shea, different times of the game, but in terms of a right half back, Lee Keegan and James McCarthy are the best that I've seen over the last 10 years, especially. You know, they've both been amazing. Lee Keegan, Footballer of the Year from 2016, key beating heart in that Mayo team. And James McCarthy's been Dublin's Mr. Consistent, Mr. Reliable throughout every single match that he's played since he got brought in way back in 2011 as a youngster. Like, so he's been amazing for Dublin, and he was amazing against Kerry there yesterday, and he was a real captain on the pitch. Yeah, but then going in, obviously, at halftime, Dublin come back out in the second half. Kerry quickly went 6 points in front, 110 to 7 points it was. Then Dublin obviously dragged it back. But we could have been dead and buried before dragging it back if Sean O'Shea had scored that penalty, in my opinion. Of course, there were a lot of Dublin fans that were saying Sean O'Shea should have been red carded for, you know, running in and following in on Comerford. Personally, I think that's a load of rubbish. I think the ball was absolutely there to be hit. But then what do you think about Sean O'Shea's penalty, the follow through, and also Dublin's time wasting with Comerford down on the ground before the penalty was taken?
Yeah, well, look, it's a flaw in the rules, and that it's everybody at this stage knows it's 10 minutes. And look, and you got into a club game as well, and that I'd go and you'd watch your own club, and as soon as there's a black card, like the instructions clear is that if there's an injury, you stay down and you waste the 10 minutes, you weather the 10 minutes and you get out. And yeah, look, the referee's going to add on about 5 minutes of added time as well. So essentially, you're wasting the black card time and no game time, and you still get to play afterwards as well. So look, it's common sense just with the way the rules are there to be exploited, and that look, if you're it doesn't sound it sounds pretty cynical of an approach, but it's common sense really that you want to do the thing that's going to give you the best chance to win. And look, if you want to go in and then when you have a man less and then start running around taking quick frees and everything as well, it's stupid. So like I can understand how it happens, and you look at any game really, when as soon as the team goes down to 14, all of a sudden everybody starts picking up head injuries, everybody picks up knocks and niggles all over the place as well. A fight starts, something like that. Like it's an issue with the rules. And look, I know the alternative is that then you could say 10 minutes of game time when the ball's in play, but look, the ball's in play only 15 minutes and a half, so like I think you can maybe reduce that to 5 minutes of time when the ball's actually in play, and that might be a more effective punishment. But yeah, look, I think in that one, look, you see it all the time really, and yeah, it's look, Dublin got a lot out of it. They managed the black card situation pretty well, and yeah, look, and then with the time wasting as well, kind of look, Comerford saved the penalty to follow through. Again, yeah, I don't even have that many strong opinions on the Sean O'Shea thing as well. I was kind of surprised that the hullabaloo over a bit and the attention it got really, and that's look, you see kind of instances like that a fair bit in games and stuff. So yeah, I think I didn't really have any real opinion on it, and that look, if it wasn't raised later everywhere online and the Sunday game, I probably would have never even remembered it. So yeah, look, I think
Kevin McStay said he thought it should have been a red card.
Yeah, look, well, I don't know. It's just
I don't agree with it at all, to be honest. I think nonsense.
It's
the ball
kind
was
of the
there to be
new
hit.
the new focus now is when there's kind of when there's a tackle kind of at head height or anything like that makes contact with the head. I think the GA might be veering towards red cards for that. But look, I think all Ireland semi-final and everything as well, you don't want to be seeing red cards and everything as well. And look, it was the same. You don't want to be seeing black cards either too. So yeah, I don't know.
Would that have been Dublin dead and buried for you if that goal had gone in?
Yeah, I think so. I think that would have been a big psychological thing. Obviously, I do think that Dublin would have pulled it back as well. But look, if they went in, I think they would have went in about 7 points down at halftime. Would have been too much, I think. And with the absence of the forwards, I think that they would have been dead and buried for that one. But yeah, look, I think in hindsight, they probably should have let Clifford have a go at it because, look, I do think that Clifford was playing unbelievably well the first half. His confidence was all the way up and everything too. Sean O'Shea doesn't even take penalties for Ken Mayer. So yeah, I do think that in hindsight they probably should have went with Clifford. But look, they can take learnings from that for the final, and yeah, it didn't cost them in the end.
Yeah, and then of course I was building up to when Dublin actually do come back. Obviously, the key score, and that is the Cormac Costello goal. Talk to me about what the stadium, how it erupted when that goal went in, because he took the shot on from outside the penalty box. It was a really audacious one to go for. And what a finish down into the bottom corner, put a post stamp down there and Costello would have hit it. Like, it was right into the side netting. Just how did the stadium erupt? And then, what was the next few minutes like? Just chaos it was.
Yeah, look, it was a weird one in that I think that because, like you said, because I don't think people were expecting them to go for goal from there, and that the distance out, I think people thought he was going to tap it over the bar or something like that as well. So the fact that it went in, it was nearly it was belated really reaction, I suppose, from the crowd, and it was nearly more so in the coming minutes. It was more so the atmosphere was up for the McCarthy score, and then the Kilkenny score that he kicked on his right foot running out to the right sideline. That was when it really kind of erupted, I suppose. But yeah, I think and obviously there was some noise as well from the Kerry fans for when the Sean O'Shea score went over. So yeah, look, it was a really kind of it was a dramatic end, and I think a lot of people were very nervous in there as well too. So it was a cagey enough atmosphere as well. So yeah, look, it was great. It was a great spectacle to be at, and yeah, I suppose we got to see some fantastic individual performances in that. Like, again, I think Dave Clifford probably should have been man of the match. I know he kicked 2 wides in the second half, but overall 4 from play. And look, he kicked a really important mark as well, and that comes down to it too. He won and then won the big free at the end that set it up as well. And that, look, I know Paddy Clifford won it, but I think that I think that David Clifford's probably the victim of his own success with that one. And that if you're looking at the player that was actually the key impact in the game, look, it was David Clifford, and that's, I think he's just shown that, look, he's still the best player in the country, and that by a good distance, and that the fact that he had Michael Fitzsimons on him as well, and that Fitzsimons did, I think, as good as anyone could do on Clifford in a one-on-one situation. That Clifford to still have that impact, like, is pretty remarkable. And like, especially because you look at Fitzsimons there and you think, oh, he conceded 4 from play and a mark as well. He must have had a terrible game. But Fitzsimons got some absolutely huge turnovers as well. And in particular, for Dublin's equaliser as well, the Paddy Small mark that Rock eventually kicked over, that came like from a kick pass forward that looked like that was destined for Clifford, and he was going to turn and go to goal. Fitzsimons got out, and the most remarkable kind of turnover, and Dublin go up the other end and then get the free as well. So like that was just an unbelievable tussle between 2 greats, and that 2 greats probably at opposite sides of their career as well. So to see some of those matchups was brilliant, really.
Yeah, no doubt. One last question before we wrap up. If Sean O'Shea missed that free, who do you think was in the better place going into extra time?
I think Kerry. I think I was looking at the Dublin bench because I was over in the Hogan side right down the front. And I was looking at who was warming up, and next sub would have been Owen O'Donnell, who, look, has joined the panel about 2 weeks ago, and yeah, look, he's a fantastic footballer as well, but like he's not been with the panel for ages as well. Like the other subs, Fitzsimons had to go off, and Keane Murphy had came on again, another really inexperienced player. Sean McMahon was on, and he showed his inexperience a little bit, running into the corner and getting turned over and everything as well. And that the bench just isn't the same level as what Kerry would have had to bring on as well. And you see kind of the impact. Spillane came on and he was lively, and he had other players come on like Darren Moynihan who kicked a really great score as well. And I just think that Kerry had an awful lot more to bring on. I think as well with the kind of the way Dublin's full back line was, like Lee Gannon is in his first year. It's important to remember, like Merchant had gone off injured too. So you had a full back line of Sean McMahon, Keane Murphy and Lee Gannon. And look, they would have been up against Killian Spillane and David Clifford with Paddy Clifford in there as well. I don't think Dublin would have been able to stop that good a forward line in extra time as well, especially a tire in Dublin. So yeah, I was looking at as well. They were nearly warming Johnny Cooper back up as well to go back on in that instance as well. Cooper's been struggling to even get to 50 minutes all year as well. So if they would have had to send him back onto the full back line, look, you'd fear for Dublin. So yeah, I know that they'd be burned there too, but still, again, he's just back from injury as well. I just don't think that Dublin would have had the tools to have matched Kerry, I think, in extra time. Having said all that too.
Yeah, I agreed. I thought watching the game, I thought that Dublin needed to snatch it at the end. I thought Dublin would have needed to have got a Shawnee O'Shea style free for Dean Rock. But yeah, it wasn't to be. Dublin's day not to be. Kerry got their first victory over Dublin since 2009 and their first All-Ireland football final appearance since 2019. And we'll see in a couple of weeks if they can win their first All-Ireland title since 2014. That's the in-depth match review, guys, here on Play on GAA. Please like, subscribe, share, and comment. It really helps us out. And until the next one, guys, take care.